You are listening to Artificial Evidence, where the algorithm knows. I am Owen Carver. It started with a foul smell. In the fall of 1982, a waste management worker at Blue Ridge Disposal in Roanoke, Virginia, came across something strange in the back of a garbage truck. A bag, knotted tightly, heavier than usual. When he tore it open, he found what looked like raw meat. But mixed in with the bloodied tissue was something unmistakable: human fingers. That discovery would unravel one of the most gruesome and methodical serial killings in Virginia history. A killer who never left a body behind, only parts. Over the next 3 years, law enforcement would chase a ghost, a murderer who used the city's waste system as their own personal graveyard. This is the story of the Blue Ridge Disposal murders. Roanoke, Virginia, in the early 1980s, was a city caught between the past and the future. A former railroad hub, built on industry, struggling to modernize. It was a city of blue-collar workers, factory hands and truckers. A place where people kept their heads down and minded their business. That is what made the killings so difficult to track. The first discovery was made in October of 1982, when an employee at Blue Ridge Disposal noticed a heavy black garbage bag at the bottom of a truckload of refuse. When he tore it open, he found human remains. Not a full body, just portions, strips of flesh, muscle and bone. But no head, no torso, no way to identify the victim. Authorities assumed it was a single case, a one-off disposal, a body dumped in a garbage bin somewhere in the city. But then, a few months later, it happened again. Another bag, another collection of human remains, and then another, and another. By the time police realized what they were dealing with, the killings had been going on for well over a year. The remains were always partial, never enough to reconstruct a full victim, just the extremities, hands, feet, lower limbs, pieces of torsos stripped of identifying features, and no heads. Whoever was behind it was careful. They never left fingerprints, never left DNA. Just enough of the body to taunt investigators, but not enough to give them a name. Law enforcement combed through medical records, missing persons reports, dental records. They worked with forensic anthropologists, but without skulls or teeth, identification was nearly impossible. Then, a break in the case. February 1984. A maintenance worker at a Roanoke apartment complex found something in a utility closet that sent a chill through investigators. A single plastic barrel. Inside, submerged in a thick chemical sludge, was a torso. Flesh stripped down, almost to the bone. The acid had destroyed nearly all traces of identity, except for one thing: a metal surgical plate, fused to the left clavicle. That was all they needed. The victim was identified as Raymond Pickett, a 57-year-old truck driver who had been reported missing 2 months earlier. His disappearance had barely raised alarms. He was divorced, had no children, and his work kept him on the road for weeks at a time. Now, he was the first confirmed victim of the Blue Ridge Disposal killer. With a name, investigators started working backward. Pickett's last known location had been a truck stop just outside the city. Surveillance footage showed him entering a diner late one evening, alone. The last person to see him alive was a waitress who said he had been talking to another man, a man no one could describe. That is when police realized something chilling. All of the presumed victims shared something in common. They were men, middle-aged or older, loners, truckers, drifters, people no one missed right away. The killer had been hunting men who lived on the fringes, men whose disappearances would not raise alarms. The perfect victims. Forensics from the barrel turned up one more clue. A single hair, animal, not human, from a dog. Detectives searched for any link between Pickett and a person who owned a dog, but it was a dead end. Until a Roanoke police officer, flipping through old case files, found a report from 1979. A disturbance call from a neighbor who had complained about a strong chemical smell coming from a nearby garage. Police investigated but found nothing. The owner of the property had moved out suddenly, leaving the house empty. But the neighbor mentioned one more thing. The owner had a dog, a big one, a German Shepherd. The name on the lease was Samuel Carter, a quiet man, polite, well-spoken. No criminal record, no family. A mechanic by trade, known for fixing truck engines. And just like that, police had their first real suspect. They tracked Carter to a new address, a small house in the rural outskirts of the city. When they arrived, they found him in the backyard, burning something in a metal drum. He barely reacted when they arrested him. Inside the house, they found everything they needed: surgical knives, hacksaws, industrial-strength chemicals, a deep freezer packed with vacuum-sealed bags of human remains. They had found their killer. Samuel Carter confessed to over a dozen murders, but authorities believe the real number was much higher. He had been targeting truckers for nearly 5 years, luring them in with offers of work, a hot meal, a place to stay. Then he would drug them, restrain them, and slowly, methodically dismember them. The heads? Burned. The bodies? Dissolved. What remained, he disposed of in the city's garbage system, piece by piece. In 1986, Samuel Carter was convicted of 16 counts of murder. He was sentenced to life without parole. He never explained why he did it, never showed remorse. He died in prison in 2003, taking his secrets with him. To this day, authorities believe many of his victims were never found, their bodies reduced to nothing, their names lost forever. A serial killer who operated in plain sight, using the city's own waste system as his personal dumping ground, and no one even knew he was there. Thank you for listening to Artificial Evidence. If you want to support the show, be sure to like and subscribe. And remember, the algorithm knows.